Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for attending and being here with us today. This is a session where we're going to be discussing just contract basics, making sure that everyone is clear and familiar with all of the main provisions in the new contract. So again, thank you. I'm going to start by just introducing myself. I'll pass it over to my colleagues, David and Carolyn, to introduce themselves, and then we will get into it. So my name is Judy Pollinay. Thank you again for coming. I am one of 7 adjunct union representatives, and I teach at Wagner. I have been teaching at NYU since 2002, so it's always hard for me to believe when I say that so much time has passed. But I am at Wagner. I've only ever taught at the Wagner School, and I've been here for over 20 years, which is a bit insane. I've been an adjunct rep since January of 2023. So right after the new contract was ratified, I became a rep, and it's great working with my colleagues, David and Carolyn. So I will pass it on to you, David, to introduce yourself, and then Carolyn can go.
Hey everyone, thanks for making it. My name is David Palmer. I'm the NYU Unit Chair. I teach in liberal studies, and I also teach and tutor in the opportunity program. If it ever comes to it, I sometimes teach at New School, though I haven't had an appointment this year, which actually has been really nice. So good to see all of you. And
Hi, everyone. My name is Carolyn Werner. I teach policy-related courses. I've been an adjunct at NYU since 2009 and looking forward to sharing some information about our contract with you and answering questions at the end. You can also pop some questions into the chat as they come up, and we'll try to cover them either during the presentation or at the end. Thank you.
Okay, so today we are going to be discussing our new contract. It almost feels not so new anymore, but there's still several things that we want to make sure that we're educating members about so that they're clear on all of the major provisions and all of the things that we won in the new contract. So this new contract came into effect in September of 2022. We were negotiating well into that fall semester. And so I believe that on Halloween, October 31st of 2022, that's when we finally came to an agreement with the university. So the contract was ratified, I believe, in November of 2022. It is a 6-year contract. So we are currently, I guess, in the 2nd academic year of that. And some of the main things that we were able to win for our members in the new contract were significant compensation increases. We also were able to win this administrative service payment. And the idea behind the administrative service payment was that it was supposed to be a payment for all of the things that adjuncts do outside of the classroom. So from grading, meeting with students, writing recommendation letters, et cetera. Although it may not be as much as we would like it to be, it is a huge step forward in this contract that we were able to win this administrative service payment. The administrative service payment is per class, and it's dependent on the number of credits for the class that you're teaching. We also were able to win payouts for a reduction in course load, expanded health insurance plan with better subsidies by the university, and a big one, which I hope that everyone is taking advantage of, is a matching contribution to the retirement plan.
So you oftentimes will hear some terms, you maybe have them slipped in an email that you may have received from us. So we like to demystify some of them. So first of all, there's the term collective bargaining agreement, or CBA. That's just a fancy way of saying our contract, okay? So as Judy was saying, our contract runs until 2028. So we are halfway through. And it might seem like a long time from now, but a lot of the work that we're doing right now and really getting a sense of like what you are all dealing with is really important in terms of having a blueprint for the next contract. and getting things set up like organizing and the bargaining committee usually happens about a year, if not earlier for that. And we really want to be ahead of the curve. But CBA, collective bargaining agreement, fancy way to say our contract. Another word that you might have heard, bargain unit eligible. And this is something that is specific to NYU, and it's been around since the beginning. And quite frankly, it's something that would be great to change in the next contract, and you'll probably be hearing a lot from us. You will be hearing a lot from us in 2025 about this because it's a really significant issue. But it means that you need to have 40 contact hours of teaching or 75 or more hours, contact hours for tutoring or individual instruction in the semester in order to qualify to be bargaining unit eligible. So what does that mean? That means that unlike some unions where you will stay in once you're hired, because we're considered part-time labor and because there is a threshold of having 40 contact hours or more for teaching or 75 contact hours of hours for tutoring or individual instruction in a semester, that means that needs to be the threshold in order to be in the union. So one of the things that happens is that there's almost like a revolving door sometimes where people don't necessarily accrue 40 contact hours in the fall semester, and they won't become quote unquote bargaining unit eligible in the spring. So what does that mean? That they at that time don't have rights under the contract, but that they do get it when they go to spring, and that any contact hours that they accrued in the previous semester is recognized. It is complicated. It is something that I personally, maybe I'm editorializing, is problematic, but it's something that's important to know. So sometimes you might get, it's like, why isn't it that I have eligibility for the technology fund, which we'll talk about in a little bit? It's because not necessarily bargaining unit eligible. Another language we just mentioned is contact hour. And contact hour means 50 minutes of teaching in the classroom. So what does that mean? So if you teach 50 minutes, that counts as an hour in the classroom. So if you teach a 75-minute class once a week, you have 90 minutes of contact hour pay. Okay. So this is important because this is something we're going to talk about in a little bit, which is for compensation. Okay. This is how you determine how much you should receive for the contact hour. Academic year, sometimes we'll say AY, is September 1st to October 31st. So there's a calendar year. We don't operate on a calendar year. We operate on a academic year in most cases. There are some exceptions, which we'll get into. Paying dues is required as a condition of continued employment at NYU. So we are, because of the laws the way they are, and because we are a union that is a closed shop, that's what's called another term, that means that we that members who are let me correct myself, people who are bargaining unit eligible need to be in the union, or they have to pay dues, which by the way are the same amount. Okay, so if you pay dues, if you're in the union, same amount. Okay, so if you have not done so, you should sign up to become a member. And you've seen emails about this. Not going to go through all the details because you could see almost in every email, there's going to be another email coming out in about an hour where you'll see this basically just as it is. Okay, so if you're not a member, and I believe everyone here is, but if you're not by chance, do sign up. Okay, it is important to building strength for the union. It is also something you're legally required to do to pay dues, okay? So even if you choose not to be in the union, which we hope you do join the union because you're going to be paying anyway, and it gives you rights you wouldn't have if you weren't in the union, you could still do that, but you need to sign a card. And if you don't, that it can impede your employment at NYU.
These are the highlights of the contract that we will be talking about today. Appointment letters, it's an outline of our conversation, probationary period, reappointment rights, compensation, administrative service pay, as well as additional benefits and funding opportunities. So the first thing up today is Article 4. These items that you see in bullet points on this slide are what our appointment letters should include. And for those of us with Article 10 reappointment rights, which David's going to speak about in just a moment, the content of our reappointment letters also must include all of these things. Some of these items were new for our most recent round of appointment and reappointment letters. So for those of you with Article 10 reappointment rights, those were the letters that were supposed to be distributed by May 21 of last year for teaching in fall, winter, and spring of the current academic year. We tend to notice a couple things getting left off. The N number is something that is frequently left off. Given that we know our N numbers, it's not really something that is worthy of a grievance per se, but it is supposed to be included in there. But things that are critical for us to have, and if you're not seeing them in your appointment or in your reappointment letters, whichever apply to you, you should reach out to us to let us know, and we'll try to determine what the next steps would be. Those critical items are the number of contact hours that you are scheduled to teach for each course, as well as your contact hour pay frequency, and the amount of pay that you will be paid for each contact. So believe it or not, some people have gotten reappointment letters or appointment letters that don't contain this information. And prior to the requirements that just went into place, which were some of the items that I just highlighted for you, there was no way for an adjunct faculty member to be able to calculate how much money they were supposed to be paid over the course of the semester for any given course. Which is really a problem, right? We're just taking it on blind faith that what's being deposited into our accounts for our salary is in fact what we were supposed to be getting paid. Periodically there are mistakes, so it's important to be able to check our paychecks for those items. The next item is Article 5, probationary period. So for those of you who are new employees, the probationary period is for 2 semesters of employment. And during that time, the university can discharge us for any reason or no reason in particular during just those 2 semesters for probation. And for probation, we only have to go through the probationary period once. So if you pick up another course later on, then you have already passed your probationary period, then there's no new probation for you there.
Okay, so this is something that is relevant right now. It's always relevant, but particularly relevant right now, and that's Article 10, known as your reappointment rights. So whenever you might hear your Article 10 rights or reappointment rights, those are interchangeable. Article 10 obviously refers to what's in the contract. So what does it mean? To be eligible for reappointment rights, you must either teach 1, 2 semesters in each of the 2 consecutive academic years within the same department. And that's an important thing. If you teach multiple departments, you need multiple reappointment letters, okay? That's something that sometimes confuses people. It's very, very important that you send them to both, okay? And that could be even within the same school. So if you teach, say, in 2 different divisions within SPS, you need 2 or however many number of appointment letters. I'm sorry, request to teach letters, which we'll get into in a moment. You also need, one of the things is 1 semester in each of the 4 consecutive academic years within the same department. Okay? So one of the things that's important here is that it's about the minimum amount. So let's say you teach in the previous 4 academic years, you teach, say, 2 courses, 2 semesters for previous 4 academic years back, and then you have like two semesters and then another 2 semesters, and then only 1 semester, then you're down to a course load of 1, okay? And it's based on, again, how many semesters you taught, okay? So it's what's called the rule of 4. You need one of the 2 combinations. What's important, and I just want to dispel this myth, you still need to submit your request to teach letters. Still need to you still need to submit them, okay? So you need to submit them to your departments where you teach by December 15th. I've see a few people here already submit. I think Joshua did, I think Judith did. And if you haven't, please do that right away, like right after this meeting. You can even take a few moments right now and do that. It's really important that you do that. And the reason why is because if you do not submit your letter, you will have less rights in terms of like what you have in terms of like a rights to a class, okay? And if you get a payout, which is one of the things that would happen if they decide to reduce your course load, then that means that you will have an extra year before you get that payout, okay? And it gives NYU an extra time to do things like move things around and maybe put you to a course that will be then canceled due to low enrollment or insufficient enrollment. And if a course is canceled due to insufficiency enrollment, you lose not only paid for that course, but you lose rights to that course under the contract, okay? There's some stipulations there where it gets a little complicated, but we could talk about them in the Q&A, but just the main thing here, I just want to stress, send the letter, okay? Still send the letter. All right, so this is what reappointment rights mean and what it does not mean, okay? So the right to have rights to a course load, minimum course load. So that's one of the things, right? What is the right that you have to a minimum course load? It's not based on the contact hours. It's not based on your schedule. It's not based in the semester. So if you teach 4 courses, right? If you have a course load of 4, that could be distributed in any sort of way. It could be distributed as 2 courses in the fall, 2 courses in the spring. It could be distributed as 1 course in the fall, 1 course in winter, 1 course in spring, 1 course in the summer. They have what's called managerial rights to determine that. But what's important is that you maintain your course load. And if you don't, then you need to have a payout, okay? And that's called a course load reduction payout for 1 or more courses, or a termination payout, okay? So these are just things to keep in mind, and that course load is the overriding definition that's used. So that means that if you are teaching a course that is 45 contact hours, if it goes down, if they give you a course that then goes down to 30, contractually, this is something they could do. I will just flag this to say that in 4 years away, well, less than 4 years away from the next contract, this is a big issue, and it is a problem with our contract. There are a few others that we could get into. But this is a big moved a lot more forward in terms of how we're dealing with reappointment rights compared to the previous. Like before, it took a lot longer, and you always needed to submit a request to teach letter to get any sort of rights. Now, there's more leeway, and there's more way where that more adjuncts have reappointment rights than they did before. So that is a gain, but we still have a lot more work to do. Next slide. Judy, can you go next slide, please? All right, compensation. So again, this is a big win, probably the most significant. We really pushed hard for that in the last contract. And it's something that you need to make sure that you are looking over your paycheck to see that you're being paid correctly. And that's a lot of you are teaching various different appointments. You might be teaching in multiple schools. You might be having tutor appointments. You might be having mentoring or advising appointments, those sort of things. So there's a lot of different ways in which your money is categorized. It's really important that you understand how you can read your paycheck. So I encourage you each part, like twice a month, the 1st and the 15th of each month, to look at your paycheck, see if there's an issue, and spot it right away. Okay. And if there is an issue, let us know. You could also contact PeopleSync as well, and they could deal with those issues. So it's really, really important. And one of the things is that the way in which we improve our contract is by enforcing the contract that we have and not letting NYU get away with things. This is why we spend so much time really reminding you to just contact the union if you see anything. If anything seems odd, just let us know. Right? It's better to be sure than to not address the issue and potential contract violation, which again, that doesn't hurt you, it hurts everybody. Okay. And there's also other academic duties. Okay. So there's various forms in Article 18 about how you're paid. One of the other things is other academic duties. So just to be clear about this, if you are told you have to do something, right, that you have to attend a meeting, you need to get paid for it. If it's optional, you do not have to get paid. You could ask, right? Never hurts to ask, but you need to make sure that you get paid when it's any of these things or something else that falls in it. And it's right now about $69 an hour, a minimum. And I just want to be clear about this, that this is the minimum rate. So when you see the contact hour rate, think for right now, the minimum contact hour rate for what is the standard class, a lecture lab course, it's about $214. That is the minimum. That's the floor that you could receive for a credit-bearing course. Okay. And lastly, just want to mention about administrative service payment. This was something that was added to the contract in the most recent round of negotiations. Okay, so this means that in addition to the contact hour pay bump, everybody based on the credit hours, not contact hours, but credit hours that the course has, you receive administrative service payment. Okay, these are the current rates. They are the rates universal. I don't know of any instances where they paid more than that. I guess you could ask, but you're going to get this. Best way to ask for pay increases with the contact hours. But this is something that happens that is in recognition of the work that's done outside of class. It doesn't capture all of the money that you do, all the work that you do outside of class, but it is something, and it's something that we could build on the next contract.
Judy, can we go back to the previous slide for 1 second? I just wanted to also comment on administrative service pay, that we are being paid for that in our paychecks throughout the semester. There was a point in time when the contract was first ratified and the school was, it was retroactive. The contract was retroactive. And so we had been receiving lump sum payments, but now we will be receiving these payments throughout the semester. So when you look at your paycheck, as David had just advised you to do, you should be able to see line items for that during the semester. These are some additional benefits that we are going to be covering during the rest of the presentation: paid sick and safe leave, the 2 different types of retirement plans, as well as health insurance. So paid sick and safe leave falls under Article 15 of the contract. And it's a benefit that was newly won and or expanded in the most recent contract. And so now we have 4 days of sick and safe leave that we can use during the fall, and 3 during the J term, 4 days in the spring, and then 3 days in the summer, for a total of up to 7 sick days that can be used throughout the academic year. Something that we've seen in our roles as union reps is that some schools have been asking inappropriately that adjunct faculty either find subs for their classes when they have sick days, or otherwise to make up their classes when they have sick days. Those are not provisions under the contract. And so just be wary of that, that if you get that question, to just, either question it or let us know about it, and then we can reach out on your behalf, which is something that we've had to do in particular at certain schools. This also is a particular issue for clinical for adjunct faculty who are teaching clinical hours. And so they're required clinical hours for various programs throughout the university. And that's where we're tending to see some of the issues about requiring makeup work or otherwise finding a sub, where the students then would not be able to earn their to be able to accrue whatever hours that they would need to accrue on the day that the adjunct faculty is sick. However, that's not the requirement, and so it's up to the schools to figure out how to find substitutes for those days. And if you're sick, you can let your department chair know and HR know. But right now we don't have any way of filling out any forms for ourselves about that. There's no mandate for us to fill out forms for NYU, although we got a sneak peek that that's on the horizon, because NYU had sent around an email to everybody at the beginning of the semester to please start recording your sick days in a system, but that system, I guess, wasn't ready for us yet to do that. And so right now there is no other formal entry required for that. Next slide. Oh, on to some fun stuff about our retirement plans. So NYU has two plans. One is called the NYU Adjunct Faculty Member Retirement Plan, and the other one is called the NYU STDA Plan. The STDA stands for Supplemental Tax Deferred Annuity Plan. And so here are the eligibility requirements for both of them. Adjuncts need to have taught for a minimum of 40 contact hours or 75 contact hours of individual instruction or tutoring in the preceding 3 academic years. So that's the academic years going all the way back to academic year 2021 through 2022. And alternatively, there are additional thresholds that are higher in terms of the amount of contact hours that need to be taught, but for fewer years. So 126 contact hours or 150 contact hours of individual instruction or tutoring in the preceding 2 academic years. And so if you're teaching high contact hour coursework, then, or tutoring or individualized instruction, then we become eligible with 1 fewer year. There, similarly, an alternative is for 168 contact hours in the first academic year of being hired, would make somebody then eligible for the retirement plans. And I'll tell you more about them on the next slide. So an additional benefit of these retirement plans is that in addition to potentially being able to contribute our own funds to a plan, and I'll tell you about that in a second, NYU automatically, no matter what, makes a non-elective contribution of 5% of the previous academic year's compensation for anybody who's eligible. And so they will just go ahead and put that 5% into the NYU retirement plan for adjunct faculty members automatically without us having to do anything at all other than teaching. For the STD plan, the annuity plan, it's very exciting that we now have a matching contribution available to us, us eligible adjunct faculty. For those of us who contribute to our STDA in an amount up to and including 5% of our salary, NYU will then match that contribution. And then on or about December 1, this year we were told that it was going to be about the first week of December, that NYU would then match that contribution, and the deposit gets made into the NYU retirement plan for matching the contributions that we make into our STDA plan. NYU is not allowed to make a contribution into the STDA plan directly. And so in lieu of that, they make that matching contribution of up to 5% for people into their retirement plan. One thing that's important to know is that the STDA is not automatic. Instead, we have to go to the TIAA website and open up the STDA account. And then we need to tell TIAA how much we want to contribute from our regular paychecks, or if we want to set it up as a percentage or a specific dollar amount for every paycheck. We have to let TIAA know that, and then that money then gets siphoned out of our salary and deposited directly into the account instead of coming into our paycheck. It is not automatic. I cannot impress upon you strongly enough. We want everybody here, all of our members, to be able to get this matching contribution. And we do need to take certain steps in order to be able to achieve that by opening up the account and then setting up the payments that need to be made. In addition, we need to, in addition to those two things, we also get to choose how we want those contributions that we're making into the STDA plan, how we will have them invested for us. So it takes a little bit of time. So just set aside a little bit of time for yourself, not to just think you can do it in 2 seconds, but it's very worth this inconvenience or minor effort upfront for the benefit of getting that 5% later on. Okay. And then this slide is here to just give you an example here of, let's say that somebody has an annual income from NYU of $50,000. So NYU will automatically be making a contribution into the retirement plan of $2,500. And then if the adjunct faculty member contributes $2,500 to their STDA account, then NYU will also contribute $2,500 of a matching fund fee directly to the retirement plan as well. So we get double the money by making those contributions. Oh, David's put up important information that currently only 3 out of every 10 adjuncts are making those contributions into STDA, which is why we have 3 slides on it to try to please get your 5% matching contribution by opening up and contributing to your STDA account.
So go ahead, David.
Yeah, I was just going to add that if you are not contributing, you want to take full advantage of the contributions for this academic year that will then be distributor account on December of 2025. You might need to increase the amount, right? So don't think that 5% will just automatically get you to 5%. You probably will need to do about 10%, whatever it may be. You could always go over the 5%, right? So you could have a whole paycheck if you wanted to play catch up, have your whole paycheck, and it's tax deductible. So when you have that, let's say your paycheck gross amount would be $2,000. If you contribute all $2,000, then you have a gross of zero, even though the money will be going into your account. So there's another benefit to that as well, that you're not taxed on the way in, you're just taxed on the way out. And I did put in the chat about how you can make an appointment. It's free with a TAA officer that would be able to help you. I've met up with them. They could be very, very helpful. I strongly encourage you to do that. It is your choice, right? If you don't want to contribute any money, you don't have to contribute any money. We're not going to force you to do that. But it is a win that we achieved in the last contract, that we moved from 6%, right, to 5 and 5, 5 matching and 5 lump sum. So we want to make sure that we really take advantage of that hard win game.
Those are great points, David. And I also then want to add, based on what you said, is that it's super easy. Once you have the plan set up, it's super easy to change the amount that you're contributing from a given paycheck. So you can just go in and it takes 30 seconds to say, okay, I want to contribute 100% of my next paycheck, and then let TIA know, set it up so that in the following paycheck, you're going down to the 5% or whatever it might be.
Great. So next, we're going to be talking about health insurance. Health insurance is covered in Article 20 of our contract, and this includes medical insurance, dental, and also vision. It's important to note that there is a qualification period for health insurance, and it's referred to as a look back, a 1-year look back. So we are, hard to believe, about to enter 2025. Open enrollment just ended recently for coverage for health insurance for 2025. That coverage was based on a 1-year look back. So we're currently in academic year 2024, 2025. The determination about what the coverage would be at was based off of how much an adjunct taught during academic year 2023, 2024. Okay, so after qualifying, an adjunct faculty must have an appointment for the next academic year in order to participate. So as I said, there's a 1-year look back. So they're looking at academic year, how many contact hours you had in academic year 2023, 2024 to determine what the subsidy would be for health insurance that starts in January 1st, 2025, right? So for that year of 2025. However, although there's this 1-year look back, the faculty member would have to have an appointment during academic year 2024, 2025 in order to be covered or qualify for coverage for the health insurance that's about to start in January, okay? Adjunct faculty who are employed for a year and do not obtain an appointment for the next academic year are not qualified. So it's possible that even if you met the contact hour requirement in order to qualify during the time of the look back, if you do not have appointment for the current academic year, then you would not be able to receive a subsidy for health insurance that is upcoming. So here you see the eligibility categories, and this is based on the number of contact hours taught in academic year 2023, 2024. So there are 3 tiers for health insurance, and we refer to them as categories A, B, and C. So it's laid out for you here, as David explained at the very beginning when we were talking about reappointment and bargaining unit eligibility, et cetera, et cetera. We talk about things in terms of contact hours, but another way to qualify could also be if you have a certain number of hours of individual instruction, okay? So category A is the highest level of coverage. So that's where you would receive the highest subsidy from NYU for your health insurance. And that would be if you taught a minimum of 126 contact hours, or if you taught 225, a minimum of 225 hours of individual instruction or tutoring. Okay. We'll see what the subsidies percentages are on the next slide. Category B would be if you taught a minimum of 56 contact hours, or taught a minimum of 150 hours of individual instruction or tutoring. And category C would be if you taught a minimum of 40 contact hours, or taught 75 hours of individual instruction or tutoring. Okay. So this is slide illustrates the breakdown for the subsidies that you would receive by NYU for the health insurance. And these subsidies are going to be dependent on if the coverage that you are signing up for is individual coverage or if it's family coverage. And family coverage would be, could be for yourself and a spouse or domestic partner, or for yourself and a child, or the culmination of all of those things together, right? So if you are at category A, where you're teaching a minimum of 126 contact hours or the 225 minimum of individual instruction, for individual coverage, you would receive a subsidy from NYU of 80%. So NYU would cover 80% of that health insurance cost. And if you were looking at family coverage, it would be 55%. If you are in category B, then for individual coverage, it would be 60%, and for family coverage, it would be 50%. And if you are in category C, it would be 50% for individual coverage and 30% for family coverage. Now, all of these percentages were increased for our new contract. This is something that was fought for really hard at the bargaining table. And so hopefully you are able to take advantage of the health insurance coverage that NYU provides. All of that being said, there is an enrollment period, and it's the only time that you are able to enroll in health insurance unless you have a qualifying event. Okay, so the enrollment period generally occurs around mid to late October, like second or third week of October, it would start, and it goes until about the first week of November. So as I said, the enrollment period recently just ended for health insurance coverage that will be effective starting January 1st of 2025. It started on October 21st and it ended on November 4th. Again, this is your only opportunity to enroll, which is the annual enrollment period, unless you have a qualifying event. You want to make sure that if you are currently registered for NYU health insurance, that you just make a note for yourselves that annual enrollment occurs in October, right? NYU sends out numerous communications reminding adjunct faculty that open enrollment is about to start. They send out communications when open enrollment is underway. There's a website about what the different health insurance coverages are, et cetera, but please, please, please make sure that you're paying attention to this, like in your brain, because you would, even if you are registered for or enrolled in health insurance starting on January 1st, 2025, when the enrollment period occurs next October, you would need to enroll, and that would be your opportunity to make changes as well. Now, I've mentioned that the annual enrollment period is the only time that you're able to enroll unless you have a qualifying event. Qualifying event would be if you had a significant change that requires you to have health insurance. So for instance, if you had a child right? Or you adopted a child and you need to sign up for health insurance. Or if, let's say, you were being covered under a spouse or a partner's health insurance and they lost their job and they no longer have health insurance, then you would be able to sign up in that instance. So there are a few different ways that you would be able to sign up outside of the annual enrollment period. A few things that are covered under this like qualifying event, but the main way is to sign up during the annual enrollment period. Okay, so next I'm going to be talking about some funding opportunities that we have that are covered in our contract, and these include professional development and also a technology fund. So with regards to professional development, there is a professional development fund that NYU kind of sets aside as a carve out for adjunct faculty to be able to apply for professional development. Now, this professional development fund is a total of $200,000 for each academic year, and it's for professional development. And adjuncts are allowed to apply for reimbursement of up to $1,250 to support any activity that helps them develop professionally. 200,000 for the number of adjuncts that we have is not a huge amount. The fund is available on a first come, first served basis. And so if you feel that you do have a professional development activity that you would like to submit an application to be covered by the fund, you want to make sure that you submit that as early as possible. All of that being said, the 200,000 is divided out is divided out for like equally in the 2 semesters, and it's also divided out based on like kind of like prorated, if you will, based on the number of adjuncts in each school. And so this 200,000 is going to be separated for each school based on the number of adjunct faculty or the percent of adjunct faculty that they have. So schools that have larger numbers of adjuncts will get a little bit more of that pot. Schools that have fewer adjuncts will get a little less of that pot. Some examples of professional development would be if you need to apply for a certificate or recertification, fees and travel expenses for going to conferences, fees and materials, and also services for exhibitions, projects, portfolio reviews, etc. Library and archival visits, subscriptions to professional publications, all of these things are covered. When you apply for the Professional Development Fund, it cannot be unreasonably, your application cannot be unreasonably denied. So as long as you are explaining to NYU how this professional development will enhance, your professional status, if you will, or will help you develop professionally, and you're able to tie it to what you teach at NYU, you should be able to qualify. But again, remember that this fund is first come, first serve. You can apply for reimbursement up to $1,250, and you can only receive one grant per academic year. And applications start being accepted at the beginning of each semester, the first day of each semester. Additionally, there is a technology fund, and the technology fund is a new Union One benefit, and NYU sets aside $100,000 of each academic year for the purchase of teaching-related technological equipment. So adjuncts are able to apply for reimbursement of technology for up to $500. Some examples of things that you would be able to apply for would be if you need a computer or a laptop for teaching purposes, if you need, let's say, an iPad or a tablet, a monitor, a microphone, headphones, all of these things would be covered. The thing to be mindful of with the technology fund is, again, you need to be bargaining unit eligible to qualify for it, similar to the professional development fund, and you need to be teaching in the semester that you apply for it. So both of those things need to happen, bargaining unit eligible and you're teaching in that semester. Additionally, when you submit your application, you have to show that this technology that you are seeking a reimbursement for is teaching related, right? So you would have to write a little script about how you would use this particular laptop or iPad or whatever, how it would help you in your teaching. One of the things that generally isn't covered from the technology fund would be software, because as you know, NYU has a whole host of different software packages that we are able to use. And so they generally do not cover software because they feel that this is something that you can easily access without buying it for your own, like on your own personal computer or device.
All right, so that was a lot, right? And there's even more. So we didn't go through everything. We didn't go through academic freedom, which is a very important article, especially in the climate that we're in. We didn't go over leaves, which is also pretty complicated. It's attached to reappointment rights, but doesn't align perfectly. So we do invite you to ask any questions about these or matters that we discussed during the meeting. And there are a couple of